Hi, my name is Renee Mitchell, Executive Director of Scalehouse. Scalehouse is a member-supported nonprofit arts organization that produces year-round events, including artist talks, workshops, exhibitions, performances, and the annual Ben Design Conference. We believe that our shared future presents complex challenges and opportunities, not just benefiting from creativity, but requiring it. One of our programs, Scalehouse Voices, in partnership with Oregon State University Cascades, is a series of talks focusing on process, practice, creativity, and culture. Given the circumstances of COVID and for the health and safety of our partners, community, and artists, we're moving all of our Voices talks online, continuing to bring you art, creativity, new ideas, and experiences. Please visit our website to learn more about upcoming events, including Scalehouse Voices and Ben Design Week taking place at the end of October. Thank you for your support of Scalehouse and enjoy.
Hi, my name is Rachel Wolf, and I'm so excited to be with you today. I am a photographer and light artist based in Portland, Oregon. I've been exploring photography since my early teens, and I've worked in just about every aspect of photography throughout my career, from custom printing, commercial work, to stills on movie sets. These days, I'm a professor of photography at Pacific Northwest College of Art and get to really focus on making my own work, which is primarily cameraless photography. So what does this mean? It means I create my images solely in the darkroom. Since I do not use a camera, there's no negative to print from. I make my images by directly exposing photographic paper to light and chemicals. I usually try to explain how this works, and I'm really excited to have the opportunity with this video to actually take you into my darkroom and show you how I get to play with light and chemicals. So let's go. So I was really excited by this opportunity to actually get to bring you into my darkroom. Usually I'm in a lecture hall and I just get to talk to you about what I'm do, and this way I actually get to show you. So right here you're seeing a piece that I've been working on since quarantine, where just about every day I go in and I stand in my sink and using syringes I am just dropping chemicals, both a developer and a fixer, onto the paper. But my only rule is that I just have to stand there and do at least one syringe of each full every day. So there's a lot of chance in how those chemicals will mix. And as you saw there, the spots start to mix and create different colors without really mixing them or doing much with them. So here, I thought it would be really fun to sort of document me documenting myself for you. So this is a large piece of photo paper. This is color photo paper. And now it is fully exposed because it's out in the light. So kind of playing on that same chemical play that we were just witnessed with the syringes, I thought that since I would be videotaping myself working from this camera, that it should be making an image too. So right here, I am putting my feet into one tray is developer and the other tray is fixer, which makes it so the paper can be exposed to light. So we also dipped the tripod in developer. So now the tripod itself is going to make marks on the paper, and so will my feet every time I go to adjust the camera to shoot myself doing something different for this video. So here you can already see that the chemicals are starting to make marks. And the black is the developer and the white is from the fixer. So this is just sort of a fun play and demonstration of how one can work solely with chemicals in the darkroom, but actually in the light. So really, so much of this is about alchemy. It's so exciting to me about what you can do, kind of this transformation of color and chemical action to create something new. Maybe I always wanted to be a scientist, I don't know, but I love mixing chemicals. I think it's so much fun. But it's a huge part of my process, whether I'm working in black and white or color. And so here I'm getting everything set up for the next print you're going to see me make. But meanwhile, we're back to what I'm going to call the footprint. So now that I'm going to change the camera angle, I'm going to make another few footsteps as I do that. I think this also kind of addresses this sort of time element that is in a lot of my work, where sometimes something can be made in a flash of light, but also a lot of my work is layered, can take a few days to make. So there's really sort of a patience and slowing down that happens when I make, which is a practice I try to bring in my daily life, but I'm not always successful at that. So now what's so exciting is we are in the dark. So right now we're working with black and white paper. So you have the red light, since red light will not expose black and white paper. So here I buy 100-foot rolls of paper so I can cut them at whatever length I want. My sink is about 14 feet long, so I can go up to about a 4-foot by 14-foot print pretty easily in my darkroom. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to start by showing you this is a photogram. And this is how I got into cameraless photography. So here, we're in the dark. We have the piece of paper, and I am the subject laying down on it. So that was just a flash of light right there to expose the paper. And as you see here, we're going to start developing it. But what's going to happen is you're going to get a silhouette of my body. Because when my body was blocking the light when it hit the photo paper, so wherever my body was will stay white while the rest of the paper goes black because of the exposure of the light. So this is just a very simple form of what can happen to create cameraless imagery. It really plays with the idea of the index in photography, which is the idea that this is an image of that. So I had to be there on that piece of paper for that image of me to happen. Unlike when I use a camera and you have an image and then a negative you print from, I was actually on that photo paper. So that is a one-to-one, direct replica of me, which I just find so fascinating. Because to me, it's almost as real as one can get with making an image. And here I just had some fun with taking an instant photo of the piece, because then you get to watch that develop, and that's just fun. But this is how I got into cameraless photography. Was after college, I was just trying to make a living as a photographer. I worked in photo labs. I assisted. I took photos of tourists. You name it. I've tried it. But I was working a lot with portraiture, and I really started to think about portraiture and what it meant to take, what portraiture meant. How could you kind of take that into a new way, and start talking about it without so much it being about the identity of the person that the image was of, but maybe something like a silhouette that has a more universal appeal. So here I wanted to show some of my photogram portraits. And I work both now in color and black and white. So all of these are very large, at least 6 feet, because they are actually of the people laying on them. Probably 90% of them are me, because I'm always available when I need a model. But you can really start to play with form and shape as well with the angling of light. So this sort of took me into this world that I can't seem to let go of. So now we go into these other sort of prismatic materials I've made to make rainbows. But really this spurred my desire to get back into color darkroom photography. What had kept me away from it for many years was the fact that you need a color processor to process color prints, because unlike black and white, you can't have a safe light. It has to be done in pitch black. And so here in Portland, Oregon, we had one processor in all of Portland until I think that went away about 7-8 years ago. So there was no way to go process color paper. So finally, I just figured, what am I doing? I can still do this. I just have to do it by hand and do it in the dark. So these chemicals are a little more toxic. So I wear a respirator, and I have this great shot here. This is me with my respirator and my night vision goggles. So I might look a little crazy, but no one ever sees me, so it's okay. So I thought it would be really exciting to take you into the color darkroom. So here, this footage was taken with my night vision goggles. So I'm actually working in the pitch black right here, but I've got the night vision goggles above me so you can actually see what I'm doing. So right now I wanted to demonstrate what I was talking about with breaking white light into the spectrum. So what I'm doing here is just diffraction grating film on an LED light. And we just made 3 exposures. Now, what you see, you can actually see that image developing in that developer. I've never gotten to see that before. This was so exciting. Because it's dark, I don't get to actually see it develop like that. And then I never knew when it went into the fixture that it would kind of fade, which, anyways, this has been monumental. So here this is just a 2-part process of developer and a fixer. And now the lights have just come on. You can't see it so well here, but just from that one light, we've created multiple colors because we used a diffraction grating film to actually show some of the color in the spectrum that makes up that white light. Now, one more thing that makes color darkroom photography even more fascinating is that it's a game of opposites. So if I shine green onto the paper, it makes magenta. So everything is actually this weird opposing game. So when we actually look at the the final results of these images, whatever you see is the opposite of what exposed it. So you really got to learn your color theory and your color wheel working in the darkroom. So this one, I wanted to just show you something a little different, where I'm just using crystals to reflect and bounce the light around. So this time there was no diffraction grading film. We weren't breaking the light into the color spectrum, but just bouncing and refracting the light through these crystals. And so you can see as it moves there that you see the actual light refractions and the lines that it creates, which just always blows me away. It doesn't matter that I've been doing this for a few decades. It still is like the first time, the magic that happens in the darkroom. So these are those images that we made. And so the ones that were warmer, those reds were made by blues. So anyways, this, I could keep going, but it gets me so excited. So this next group of photos I wanted to show you are now that I would say over the last maybe 5 or 6 years, I've really been focusing primarily on color since I got a respirator and some rain gear and decided to do what I wanted. So a lot of these images here that we're looking at are more what we would call a chemgram. So these are mostly made with chemical reactions, kind of in the way that with the footprint that we've been making throughout this video. A lot of these are made solely with chemical reactions. So not only am I bringing in the traditional color chemistry, but I'm also mixing it with black and white chemistry, slide chemistry, household products. I haven't blown anything up yet, but trying not to. But what's great is all these different things bring in different tonalities, different colors that we can play with, and different modes of making. So sometimes I then can combine maybe more chemical reaction with a light exposure. So it's really these primary elements of photography, of chemical, light, and paper, and just utilizing them to create these images. So it's really photography about photography. It's really kind of trying to talk about, these ideas of what photography is or must be, that it really defies so many of the boundaries that we want to give it. So in that sense, I've also really been thinking a lot about the objecthood of a photograph. And thinking about something Robert Heineken once said, where he said, a photograph is not an image of something, but an object about something. And so I started wanting to get my work out of the traditional frame. So I started working, creating my prints on aluminum. So here, this is a process I've made up that really excites me, because when I create these images, I'm now printing them out onto a digital transparency that I'm putting onto aluminum and using an epoxy to bring it all together. And then the epoxy and the ink in the transparency have another chemical reaction in the final print. The epoxy will kind of pull out the whites and the really light colors, and then it starts to bring the aluminum through. So it's like a cyclical cycle of, once again, this chemical reaction happening in the production of the final object. So this really started to spur me not only into thinking about presentation and the objecthood, but also got me back into thinking about film. So this large piece, this is a one film roll, 35 millimeter roll of film that I've blown up to 40 feet. And this, once again, is a chemical reaction where I took the film, I pulled it out of the canister, manipulated it with film, and put it back into the canister, and then let it do its own thing for a little while. I would say that with my process, I'm a good at least 85% in control. But that's what I love, is that I have to listen to the work and I have to allow it to do what it's going to do. And that bit of chance and that bit of happy accidents are always what I feel like really propels the work to another level, as well as myself and my ideas. I learn from it just as much. So playing with light in the darkroom really made me want to start sharing that experience with others, which got me to start making light-based installations for people to experience light in some of the ways that I want to talk about it or play with it. So this piece is an installation I created where I built a small room, 6 feet by 8 feet, completely enclosed, and you enter into it through this darkroom door. And once you enter into the room, you are faced with this rainbow that is coming directly at your heart. And so you can move around the space and really encounter this light. I also used haze in the room to help really materialize the light beams. So there was a real physicality to them. So you really could play with the light in this way, be present to the colors, and you could really feel it. And when I say feel it, I mean, you could feel sort of this, like a tingling sensation, or, really when you start to just have that little bit of sensation on your fingertips. And what I love so much is that as you move around, the colors in that rainbow really move with you. Because what I'm using is a diffraction grating film to break the white light into the spectrum, which is really what propelled me into what we're about to see here coming up. Really working with the color spectrum and working with rainbows. What I think is so fascinating is that color and light works very differently than color and paint. So with paint, if you add all the colors together, you get black. But with light, if you add all the colors together, you get white. So white light contains the entire spectrum of color. And so with this idea, I've become really fascinated with kind of breaking white light into the spectrum and creating experiences and images in that way. Here, I wanted to show some sound waves. I started to work with cymatics, which is visualizing sound. And so these images that we're looking at now have all been made using sound waves. So like that tray of water you saw, that was on a speaker that was pumping out very loud tones. And so that I use those to create the image by slipping the photo paper in the water or some other substrate. I can flash the light and start making visible the invisible. So what's really fascinating to me about working with sound is that this study of cymatics is not only visualizing sound, but different sound waves create different geometric shapes. Hans Jenny, who coined the term, created the most incredible sort of visual description of all these different tones that create these different geometric shapes. So my setup is in no way as good as his or people who have quite the scientific setup, but I'm really able to create imagery with the sounds, even though they may not be as perfect as one would with a better setup. But this investigation really is one that has continued and permeates throughout my process. I continue to use sound waves, and this next piece is of my mother's voice. My mother passed when I was young, and my memories of her are really mostly visual. And I was given some home movies by my father, and I heard her voice, and it was really surprising because it wasn't really anything I had a memory of. So since I've been working with visualizing sound, I really wanted to work with visualizing her voice. So this is an installation shot of her saying Rachel and Mommy, and the speaker there is her speaker, and it's playing sounds of static that I made because these sounds that we see on the wall are of the past and can't be made again today. And then this is the piece that we saw at the very beginning of the video of using the syringes to create this sort of time lapse. Now this is the final footprint that we made during this video, and these next pieces are the ones that we've made during the video, the portrait of me and the rainbow made by refracting the white light, the crystal image. And here I just thought I'd end by showing you a little bit of the behind the scenes work of, how I had to videotape them with my night vision goggles, but I just thought it'd be a great way to get to say goodbye. So thank you guys. This has been a lot of fun to share some of these ideas and some of the excitement I find with photography.